At 2:17 a.m., I got a message from an unknown number. It said, "I know you're not alone." The worst part, I really was. The night started like any other night, silent, calm, a little too calm. I had turned off the lights and was standing by the window. Outside, there was barely any wind. Even the leaves on the trees weren't moving. I had rarely seen such stillness before. Even though I was in the city, it felt like I was trapped somewhere completely alone. Suddenly, a thought crossed my mind. This silence didn't feel normal. I looked at the clock. 2:17 a.m. My phone was on the table. The screen was off, but strangely, it felt like it was watching me. I told myself, "You're getting scared for no reason. You were under a lot of work pressure today, that's all." But right then, I heard the sound of breathing behind me, very close. I turned around. The room was empty. The door was closed. The window was closed. Still, my chest tightened. I know this feeling when someone is there, but you can't see them. To calm myself down, I sat on the bed and picked up my phone. But something strange happened. The moment I turned on the screen, there was a notification. "Are you still awake?" The number wasn't saved. No profile picture. At first, I thought it was a wrong message. I didn't reply. But a few seconds later, another message came. "I know you're not alone." My heart skipped. I stood up quickly and checked the door lock. It was locked. I typed, "Who are you?" It showed seen, but there was no reply. And right then, the room light flickered once. I held my breath. That's when I remembered the landlord had said when I moved in, "If you hear anything strange at night, don't pay attention to it." I had laughed it off back then. I wasn't laughing now. My phone vibrated again. "Don't look at the door." Reading that line, I froze because I was already looking at the door. Slowly, my eyes moved to the door handle. The handle was moving on its own. Just a little, but clearly. I stepped back once, then another step. Only one question kept spinning in my head: is this really happening, or am I imagining it? Suddenly, the temperature in the room dropped. It wasn't cold exactly, but there was a heavy chill. I whispered, "I didn't do anything to anyone." I don't know why I said it. It felt like someone was listening. The final message came, "I don't want to come inside. You called me yourself." Reading that, my head started spinning. Me? When did I? How? Then I remembered on the first night in this apartment, sitting alone, I had laughed and said, "If something really exists, let it show itself once." I had said it as a joke. But now it felt like some things shouldn't be said as jokes. The door handle suddenly stopped moving. Silence. Then from under the bed, a very familiar voice spoke. "Can you recognize me?" That voice was my own. The moment I heard it, my body went numb. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. Because the voice sounded exactly like me, the tone, the pauses, even the sound of breathing. I slowly shook my head as if telling myself, "No, this isn't possible." I didn't have the courage to look under the bed. But the human mind is strange. The one thing you're told not to do is exactly what you want to do. Slowly, I bent down. Under the bed, darkness, but it wasn't normal darkness. It was deep, far too deep, like an empty space with no end. Right then, that voice spoke again. "I can't get out." I bit my lip. Gathering myself, I said firmly, "Who are you?" 1 second of silence. Then the answer, "I am you." Hearing those two words, something inside my head shattered. I stepped back until my back hit the wall. My heartbeat was so loud it felt like it would burst out of my chest. I said, "I'm standing right here. How can you?" The darkness under the bed stirred. Slowly, something was crawling. I closed my eyes. I didn't have the strength to see it, but I could hear it, something like nails scraping against the floor. Then very close, "You left me alone." The moment I heard that, an old pain suddenly woke up inside my chest. I opened my eyes. There was no darkness under the bed anymore. There was a shadow. Human shaped, but not quite human. I couldn't see its face, but its body shape was just like mine. In a trembling voice, I asked, "Who did I leave behind?" The shadow slowly lifted its head. I was looking into my own eyes, but they were empty, nothing inside. "Me," the shadow said. At that exact moment, a memory crashed into my mind like a storm. One night, another room. I was standing in front of a mirror. Back then, I was completely broken. There were things I never told anyone, pains I kept buried inside myself. That night, I had told myself, "I don't need this part anymore. If I want to be strong, I have to let it go." I didn't know then what it really means to let go of a part of yourself. The shadow now crawled fully out from under the bed. It stood there, facing me. Its body was translucent like it was made of smoke, but its eyes, those eyes held every word I never said. You left me in the dark, it said. Now I'm back. I shook my head. You're not real, you're just in my head. It laughed, exactly like my laugh. Then why are you scared? I couldn't answer. Suddenly, whispers filled the room. From the walls, from the ceiling. The same words again and again. Come back, come back. I was struggling to breathe. It felt like the room was shrinking. The shadow took one step toward me. Just then, a sound came from outside the door. Someone was knocking. Tap, tap, tap. The shadow froze. Slowly, it turned its head toward the door. Then it whispered, "Don't open it." The knocking came again, louder this time. I looked at the door. My phone was on the floor. The screen was on. One final message: "If you open the door, I'll leave. But you'll come with me." I couldn't understand who was outside the door and what was inside the room. I had to make a decision, because the knocking was no longer coming from the door. It was coming from inside my head. The knocking stopped, suddenly, as if someone realized I couldn't decide. That terrifying silence filled the room again, but this time it was heavy, pressing down. The shadow slowly looked at me. There was no anger in its eyes now, only waiting. "You always do this," it said calmly. "When it's time to decide, you stay silent." I swallowed. That line felt too familiar. Softly I said, "If you really are me, then do you know what I'm thinking?" It smiled gently. The smile was like my old one, the one I hadn't used in a long time. "You're thinking if you open the door, you'll get something real, and if you look at me, the truth inside yourself." Hearing that, my chest trembled. Suddenly, images began to appear on the walls. Not like pictures, like memories. I saw myself smiling in a crowd, but empty inside. Sitting alone at night, not calling anyone. I keep telling myself I'm fine, but the truth is I was. The shadow said, "You left me there. All your weakness, all your fear, all the words you never said." I whispered, "I just wanted to survive." "I know," it replied instantly. "But in trying to survive, you made yourself incomplete." The temperature in the room began to change again, this time not cold, hot. It felt like something was boiling inside my chest. I closed my eyes. I couldn't bear these visions anymore. Just then the knocking started again. This time it sounded normal, human. Tap, tap. The shadow stepped back. Its voice turned firm. "That is your real life," it said. "If you go there, you'll leave me in the dark again." I opened my eyes and looked at the door. Suddenly a question came to my mind, one that hadn't come before. Slowly I asked, "Do you want to hurt me?" The shadow stayed silent. That silence was the answer. Then it spoke. "I don't want to take you, I just want to return." The whispers in the room stopped. Everything went still. That's when I understood this wasn't a ghost. It was a part of me, the part I had denied. The door was knocked again, for the last time. I took one step forward, then stopped. I looked back. The shadow had its hand stretched out toward me. The hand was trembling. "Don't leave me alone this time," it said softly. I took a deep breath. For the first time in my life, instead of running away, I stood still. I didn't go toward the door. I walked toward the shadow. I took its hand, not cold, warm, just like a human hand. At that exact moment, the room filled with bright light. The walls, the ceiling, the floor, everything began to merge. Inside my head, a sharp sound like something snapping back into place. I closed my eyes, and when I opened them, I was sitting on the floor. The room was normal. The door was closed. There was no knocking. My phone was in my hand. No messages on the screen. I looked at the clock, 2:17 a.m., the exact same time. But this time, I didn't feel alone. There was a strange weight in my chest, but it wasn't fear, it was truth. I don't know if anyone would believe this story from the outside. But even today, when I tell myself I'm fine, a very soft voice inside the room says, "Don't lie this time." Since that night, my life has looked completely normal from the outside. Sleep, work, conversations, everything the same. But inside, the silence was no longer empty. Now I can hear my inner voice, the ones I used to deliberately ignore. For the first few days I thought maybe it was all imagination, stress, loneliness, mental exhaustion, but some things aren't imagination. One night I stood in front of the mirror again, lights off. Room dark. Before I would have looked away. I was afraid to face myself. That night I looked. In the mirror I wasn't alone. No one was standing behind me, but inside my eyes there was depth. As if I was standing there whole, I whispered, "Are you there?" No fearful voice answered, no strange sound. Just a feeling rising from inside my chest. I was always here. From that day on, things began to change. I stopped forcing myself to look strong. When I feel bad, I accept it. When loneliness comes, I don't run. because I know if I ever push a part of myself back into the dark again, it will return, but not as a shadow, as something far more terrifying. The strangest thing happened a few weeks later. One night I woke up suddenly. The room was dark, everything familiar, but one thing had changed. When I looked under the bed, I wasn't afraid anymore. Because I knew there was no one there, I don't leave myself behind anymore. Still, even today, sometimes at 2:17 a.m., my clock stops for 1 second. Exactly 1 second. In that second, I always feel the same thing. The eyes inside me are looking at me, not to scare me, but to remind me that if I pretend again, if I lie again, no one will knock on the door, I will. From the inside, and if that door ever opens, there will be no way back. I shared this story because maybe one night you too have felt that you're not fully present inside yourself. If someday late at night you suddenly feel like someone is watching you, pause for a moment and think, did it come from outside or from within? Because not all horror stories happen in dark rooms. Some happen silently inside people, so friends, take care.